name's Bradie. This is The Law, live audio wrestling, and we had this past weekend. We had UFC 301, hot off of the heels. I think everybody's still dealing with the UFC 300 hangover, right? Because you had a couple of fight nights, a couple of this and that's in between, but we got to 301. I mean, we had 298, 299, and then 300. What a buildup. You had to think there was going to be some kind of fall off of this, right? And we talked about it. We talked about the preview of UFC 301, and we sat there and went, this is not the strongest pay-per-view on paper. But then fight night came around, and once again, holy crap, the UFC delivers, man.
Well, in our previous segment, we said it was all psychology, and this was a lack of psychology because there was nothing but guarantees on this night. My goodness, outside of one man, this was pretty much a guarantee all night, and the fights delivered.
Yeah, they absolutely delivered, so much so that I got nauseous watching one of the fights because there was a fight where a gentleman, the fight got stopped. When was the last time you saw a fight get stopped from a cut on the leg?
It was deep.
Like you could see the bone, the shin bone, apparently, they were saying in this fight. And when I saw that happen, because if you go back and listen, you know that I've had a severe leg injury about 17, 18 years ago now. And so I still get PTSD when I see stuff like that. Yeah. Just on the leg. You cut your face open, whatever. Elbows to the nose, boom, boom. I don't give a shit. But that really kind of made me go, oh boy. Right? So it hasn't happened where you've had a fight stopped from a leg injury like that, from an injury other than a breakage. Yes, absolutely. That's happened. But a cut? They usually just let him go.
Well, his leg was in so much trouble, it created a mouth so that it could scream, "Please let me out."
Yeah, it was telling it gave up.
Yeah.
Here was his little mouth, his little leg mouth going, no mas, no mas, no mas.
Quick side story, has nothing to do with wrestling, combat sports, or anything outside of it was an actual fight. I had a buddy of mine, shouts out big old Chewy. I don't even know if you're still alive, but a buddy of mine when I was a teenager, he got hit in the leg, in the shin, with a baseball bat from a very big gentleman. And it did the same thing, just caused a little hole. But he was so wasted, by the time that we got back to our party house, he was making it talk and squeeze. He was making it spit across the room. He's like, "Hi, guys, I'm a hole in my leg." That's what it reminded me of. Anyway, back to The Law, live audio wrestling.
I'm going to mute your mic next time. Remind me to do that, okay? I just get done telling you a story about how stuff like that really bothers me. You're like, oh, yeah. Well, wait till I tell you this one.
I seen you hold back your White Russian. You're drinking a White Russian or something, some coconut thing there, and I seen you almost spit that up there. I apologize.
Unbelievable, Bradie.
Well, welcome back to The Law live audio wrestling. Yes, a fight was stopped because of a leg cut.
So I want to just very quickly go through some of the up to a certain point, all betting favorites.
Yes,
winning 10-0 was the game. And if you go back and you look at fight number 11, what that was, ladies and gentlemen, that should have been another win because you had Anthony Smith taking on Poteria, an undefeated fighter that everybody thought was just going to run through Anthony Smith because Anthony Smith has been very hot, very cold, very, he's been beatable in the last couple. Since he gave up the sure thing victory against John Jones and the belt.
Look, Vitor was supposed to smash him, and he didn't. He came in there way too confident, and we all came into this fight confident. I'm telling you, they got to change his name to Anthony the fucking Parlay Killer Smith. He knows it. He was laughing about it. He even said it in the after fight interview. He's like, "I killed a lot of parlays. I killed a lot of bets here, man."
Yeah, rightfully so. So I want to talk about the biggest winners of the night. Him, of course, being one of them. And we're going to run through the winners, and then we're going to run through what you should do with these guys, right? Another big winner of the night, obviously, the main event, right? Alejandro Pantoja in a great fight. Steve Erceg, right, came off looking fantastic. I mean, the fact that this went the distance isn't a surprise because that's usually pretty fair assessment at 25 is that you're going to go the distance. These guys aren't knocking each other out. You know what I mean? They're too good. They're too good at that weight class to have that happen. Obviously the two best looking fights, I'm going to say. One, Michel Pereira,
My boy.
who wins via choke after backflip shin to the face.
Dude, no, that wasn't to the face. That was legal. It was to the body, apparently.
Yeah. Anyways, here's the fucked up thing. There's no rule. There's no rule that says you can't backflip. But I think you're going to see some rules being changed about because of this type of situation where, yep, Pereira gonna Pereira. And that's exactly what he did. And he went out there, knocked the dude down, did a little backflip, took the deal, got back up, boop, choked him the F out.
Don't quote me, but I think it was about 37, 38 seconds.
Yeah, it was
That
fantastic.
guy's he is a monster of a human being. I do not understand how he even makes that weight class.
He is on an 8-fight winning streak right now. Can you believe that? He's on an 8-fight winning streak and he's not ranked. That's crazy to me. So the other crazy finish fight that I got to talk about is Caio Borralho taking on Paul Craig in what, I mean, listen, I've said this off air to people. I don't know. I like Paul Craig. He's a lovely human being.
Everyone loves Paul Craig.
But the fact that he's been fighting as long as he has at the level of competition that he's fighting and commissions are still going to license him to do so, knowing that he has the head movement of a statue. Nobody gets hit more than Paul Craig does. It's unbelievable the damage he puts himself through to get to the position that works for him. The scary thing is the fact that he's getting older and the competition is getting younger and better. And eventually it's going to catch up with him. I mean, you saw what happened this past weekend at 301. Eventually he got caught. He was fighting. It reminded me very much of Seth Petrozelli fighting Kimbo Slice with just throwing up that front kick, that like get away from me front kick, which was a whole, and there was no jab. It was more than just the front kick first. Because remember, Petrozelli threw up that front kick and kind of missed and then threw the jab out there as back it into the fence. What you saw from Paul Craig was a lot of like, get away from me with that kick. And Cal had to like almost jump over the kick to try to get to him. He wasn't even able to get off on angles, but eventually he caught him. He put him to sleep.
Look, I'm just an armchair manager. I'm just a guy who watches the thing. I am not an expert by any means, but his coaching staff, when they went into round 2 and he was in his corner, they were like, everything's good. Just keep throwing the kick. You're looking good. And I'm like, looking good? Did you just see the same thing I just seen? His head is straight up in the air and he's getting tossed around. This is only going to last for another round tops. Like, Tell him to do something different, guys.
Yeah.
Don't give the guy false confidence and tell him to go back in there and do the same thing he was just doing when he was getting tapped. Because you know as well as I do, when you're in the fight, sometimes you got to save the fighter from themselves. And those are kind of some of the things that you can do to save a fighter from himself. Tell him to put his hands up and go for the fucking takedown. And that's it. Just sprawl. Just go.
Yeah.
Pull guard, do whatever you got to do, but stop doing what you're doing because you're going to get hurt. And he went to sleep.
He went to sleep nighty-night.
Super nerd.
And then Super Nerd ends up winning. And here's the thing. You know what I like about Cal is that he's like Paulo Costa, but less creepy.
He looks like Paulo Costa. You're right.
Right? But
he does look like Paulo Costa.
He puts on the glasses, he puts on those hacker glasses, and you're just like, this fun, loving nerd of a guy. I would like to hang out with this dude. You know what I mean? I think that it would be a funny time.
I'd rather hang out with the Diaz boys.
Well, I mean, listen, we're not throwing up. It's not a make-a-wish. You don't get to like, one or the other.
Stockton, motherfucker.
You know how I know,
bitch.
You know how I know you're an idiot? Because you're throwing up hand signals on an audio show.
Wait, no, this is on YouTube too. It's on YouTube too. Yo,
right.
209, motherfucker.
You can't be throwing up gang signs on YouTube.
Why not? Kendrick Lamar and Drake can, apparently.
Oh,
I guess that's the
well,
thing.
we're not beefing.
No. They're not either, apparently. I think this
No,
is all
shout out to the new Ho King though. It is a hell of a restaurant in Toronto, I'll tell you that much.
All right. Well, let's close down the MMA talk. We've got a lot to look forward for UFC 302. No, I'm shutting it down, man.
We're not even close to done yet. What do you do with these guys next?
I don't want to talk to them.
We're not talking to them.
No, okay. So what do you do with them next? Which is going to lead into what was my lead out, which is UFC 302, UFC 303, UFC 304, et cetera, in order.
So here's the thing. I think that Michel Pereira needs to get into the rankings. And I think the number 15 guy in those rankings right now happens to be Chris Curtis. And I think that that's a hell of a fight to make, right? To see who stays in the rankings and who doesn't at that point. I think that Borralho, he's ranked number 13 right now, and he's moving right up. I think that a good spot for him to take, I think a good fight for him to take next would be Jaak Hermansson, who's ranked at number 10. I think that's a hell of a fight right there. It's very similar to Paul Craig in that grappling style, right? But Jaak Hermansson obviously has a little bit more stand up and the ability to kickbox as well. Yeah. With Pantoja, he's obviously, defended against the number 1 and number 2 guy, which is Brandon Moreno and Brandon Royval. The number 3 guy that he has to fight right now is Amir Albazi. Right, Amir Albazi, who's like 17-1 or something ridiculous like that. That's the dude you got to fight. I think that with Anthony Smith is the toughest one out of all of them. He's ranked number 10 right now. But what do you do? Because if you look at the guys that are higher than him, the guys at the top of that weight class, he's not beating those guys. I'm sorry. Like, those dudes are just head and shoulders above the rest in that weight class. I think that his best shot to be able to move up to see if he still has this into him is a rematch with the number 7 guy in that weight class right now, and that's Johnny Walker. I think that's what you do with him right now. I think that Anthony Smith deserves that. You take the number 10 guy, put him in with the number 7 guy, see who can keep that spot. Let Anthony earn that ability to get back up there to fight some of those top 5 guys. But right now, it's a tough weight class.
Now, what do you do with the retired, non-retired, retired last fight on his contract, Jose Aldo? What does he do from here? He's going to professional boxing? What's he doing?
Yeah, you let Jose do whatever he wants. I think Jose right now, I think that would be the greatest thing, is you let Jose go and do some boxing. Like, Jose Aldo doing boxing would be fantastic. And it also gives him the ability to not have to cut weight. I mean, that was always a thing with Jose. It was cutting that weight. It's just ridiculous. But you could go have him fighting at 145 and smashing some dudes.
Even at 155, I think he's still a contender.
Yeah, absolutely. Jose Aldo has earned the right to do whatever the fuck he wants. So,
yeah, no, he's a legend, and I think he'll take that legendary status. Like, even if he does fight in the UFC again, I think this should be one-off fights. Just give him a one-fight deal, you know what I mean? Let him fight who he wants. Let him take a year off again, come back, do a super fight again. I think he's one of your last super fight guys that you have that's still durable. So
absolutely.
All right.